Hi, it's Laura Louise Brody with a test run of the first draft of the Learning Ecosystem of the Future TED Talk. Here goes. Ecosystems are messy. Remember back in grade school? Here's what we learned. Ecosystems are multi-layered with a variety of interdependent living and non-living things. Ecosystems are regenerative. Energy flows throughout the system, and ecosystems are nurturing. When thriving, ecosystems provide a healthy environment for all inhabitants to flourish. And that's just what we need now to ensure that generations of learners can thrive in the jobs of tomorrow. A learning ecosystem of the future. One that plays host to a multi-layered spectrum of interdependent players like policymakers, entrepreneurs, investors, organizations, and higher ed institutions. One that is regenerative, constantly evolving, and ever growing as technologies evolve and jobs change. And one that is nurturing, an integrated suite of solutions to meet the needs of learners and workers of the future. We're not there yet, but our vision of the future is strong. Because our current system will not meet the needs of the future, we need to start building now, or risk leaving millions behind. Let me tell you about Steve. For the past 20 years, Steve has been crawling under desks and into attic spaces, pushing technology carts and responding to his colleagues' calls for assistance. When he was younger, Steve decided that college was not for him. He became an IT specialist, building his career while providing for his family. Now at 51, Steve's finding the physical aspects of the job to be a strain on his back and his shoulders, and he recognizes now that it's time to make a change in his career. With his family relying on him, he believes that he will need to work for about another 15 years and wants to make sure that he selects a good path. But here's the thing that we see so often. Steve doesn't know what path should look like and where to get started or how to make it happen. He's considering going into teaching because it seems secure and he likes kids. But is that a good career option for him, or is it just a familiar option? Teaching will require him to go back and get his bachelor's degree, but he can't afford to stop working. Steve and his family also rely on his health insurance that his job provides, and they can't afford to be without it. So without the right network of support, Steve doesn't know where to turn for advice. Steve's journey is all too common these days. We see it all around us. Technology is changing the way we work and live, and the pace of change itself is accelerating. So in order to stay relevant and thrive in a tech-infused world of the future, we need to learn new skills and gain new competencies. This is our new normal. The notion of a person going to college and then working for a single company until retirement just isn't true anymore. We've created a whole new cycle of earning and learning, as depicted here in the Stanford Open Loop University. In a longitudinal study of baby boomers by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, even younger baby boomers held an average of 12 jobs from the age of 18 to 48. Job transitions are the new normal. In the future, we will not only transition from job to job, but also from career to career, as the careers of the future have not even yet been invented. So here's the rub. The promise of lifelong learning does little to help us transition effectively. You've heard about it forever, right? But few have provided a view of what lifelong learning actually looks like in practice. Why isn't our current education system the panacea for the future of learning? For one thing, it isn't designed for people like Steve or the 44 million working class Americans like Steve who do not have a college degree and aren't earning enough to support themselves and their families. Most adults will not turn to traditional universities because they are largely designed for younger students right out of high school, and they don't often appeal to full-time workers looking for short burst training programs. And all of the talk of lifelong learning, funding models are not shifting to adult learners. Today, federal and state local governments invest approximately $660 billion in public K-12 education, serving about 50 million students a year. The federal government also issues $160 billion in student aid for those attending colleges and universities, serving close to 20 million learners annually. Still, this is only a fraction of the investment in post-secondary education. The lion's share is for financial aid for those who are already enrolled in undergraduate degree programs. Compare these figures to the investments made in the workforce training. Employers invest $170 billion in formal training each year, but the majority of that funding, about 58%, is channeled toward workers who already have earned a bachelor degree and work in higher paying professional and managerial positions. We need to invest in a system that supports workers to seamlessly move from work to learning and back to work so that we all have a chance to thrive, and we need to get started now. Transforming the education to opportunity pipeline, however, is not easy. It represents a value chain made up of millions of educators, learners, employers, and layers of federal, state, and local policies. It's affected by a multitude of interest groups, often with competing missions, theories of action, and relationships to policy. It includes public, nonprofit, and proprietary schools across the student life cycle. It's enabled by a multiplicity of financing solutions, content, software, hardware, and infrastructure. For too long, the system of schools, colleges, and universities that were built over many decades to serve the public good and give all students a chance for the American dream have left too many without the skills and pathways to thrive in the knowledge economy. The system won't be fixed by throwing money at the problem or putting the onus on higher education or employers to fund the solution. It's much more complicated than that. Remember that I said ecosystems are messy? That's just the point. Our current system is brittle, unintegrated, and unable to help education consumers gain the relevant information, funding, advising, and support, and skills training, learning experiences that they need. The fix will require many stakeholders working together to make systemic change. That's where the ecosystem approach comes in. In the learning ecosystem of the future, single source providers do not exist. Instead, there is a complex interdependence between learning providers and funders, education technologies, policies, and policymakers and employers. In the learning system of the future, siloed solutions do not exist. Instead, a robust integration of data exists through which different stakeholders can share information, send stronger and clear signals in the marketplace, and better match those signals and opportunities with the talent or skills available. In the learning ecosystem of the future, rigid structures do not exist. Instead, the system adapts to changing technologies, changing job market, and changing learner needs. So what is it really? What is the learning ecosystem of the future? And how can we build a future to enable education consumers to navigate the career transitions they will face? Well, starting with a learner as a consumer, the learning ecosystem of the future consists of 5 core elements that support the learner's journey throughout their career. Let's break it down, and then let's consider Steve's situation again. The first element of the learning ecosystem of the future is wayfinding. People want to be oriented to where they are relative to where they want to go at the time they want to make that transition. They need to understand their options, and they need to so that they can make informed decisions about the pathways that they pursue. The second element is funding. Learners and workers need funding models to facilitate on and off ramps between education and work, including lifelong and portable learning dollars and mechanisms that provide transparency and align funding to outcomes and returns. The third element is precision learning and support. Learners need precision education and wraparound support services intentionally designed and experiment with experiential learning experiences married with human and tech-enabled 360-degree supports, which are mentoring and coaching, and those that eliminate barriers to learning. The fourth element is endorsement. Learners want the means to validate their diverse learning experiences, whether book taught or life learned, and package those skills so that they can effectively and consistently communicate and translate what they can do to prospective employers. The fifth element of the learning ecosystem of the future is opening doors. Opening doors to career opportunities through new frictionless approaches to hiring and training that specify job demands, recognize and match the demand to the skills of a diverse workforce, all while mitigating all those risks for employers and job seekers. So how does that all fit together and work in action? The best way to paint the vision of the learning ecosystem of the future is by describing that experience that a learner will have in that ecosystem. Let's consider Steve's situation again and reimagine his journey through the learning ecosystem of the future. Working class adults like Steve need more than a one-time fix as they seek to skill up for the future career transitions. They will need a seamless ecosystem of interlaced solutions and providers that show them pathways, help them pay, help them learn, endorse and vouch for that learning, and lead to good work. So in the learning ecosystem of the future, the 5 elements as it relates to Steve, let's look at them. Wayfinding for Steve becomes show me. In the face of his transition, Steve completes a robust assessment of his competencies and better understands where he is on the career path. The assessment reveals that Steve has the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to transition into several different careers, a few that he never knew existed or considered as options. For example, Steve's new knowledge that he already possesses 40% of the skills needed to become a product manager, or 30% of the domain knowledge to become a data science analyst, creates tangible options for him to consider. That information, coupled with data on salaries and job availability to his prospective career paths, plus training options to help fill the knowledge gap, provide foundational information that Steve needs to make better informed decisions about where to head in his transition. Funding for Steve becomes help me pay. With a clearer understanding of the opportunities ahead, Steve finds links to information on costs, financial aid, and other financing options to make learning affordable and ensure that he doesn't endanger the welfare of his family by taking on too much debt at this stage in his life. In this well-functioning learning ecosystem, Steve is empowered to evaluate his options and learn more about financing options, including income share agreements as a way of assessing dollars tied to programs with strong labor market outcomes. He also learns about portable learning benefits that follow him rather than his current employer. Third is that precision learning and support for Steve becomes help me learn. Throughout the process, Steve connects frequently by phone, chat, or text with a trusted advisor or other human and tech-enabled supports. This support network helps Steve articulate his goals for his transition and walk him through assessing whether he has the time and resources to take the leap. His network also helps explain his financing options for the training that he is considering, plus options for health insurance coverage for his family while he studies. Having started programs in the past but never completed, Steve knows that these supports will help him keep accountable in finishing his learning journey. He plans to maintain regular contact with his network throughout the duration of his program. With the help of his advisor, Steve finds the right learning experience that is aligned to his chosen career path. The options may include targeted training programs offered on the ground in Steve's community, or a portfolio of courses and resources available through MOOCs or open education resources, colleges, or fee-based private training programs like Pluralsight or Udemy. To help in his decision, Steve has access to a tech-enabled platform that includes verified reviews of every kind of program, from boot camps to micro-degree programs to the local community college's courses. In this platform, Steve drills down in his search to find programs that meet his specific needs, like working full-time studying, and also reaches out in crowdsourced forums with verified reviews for more insights. The fourth element, endorsement, for Steve simply means endorse me. As Steve considers future employment, prospective employers can look at his combination of work experience and demonstrated skill mastery and training to assess his fit for the new job. For this to happen, the combination of Steve's experiences will be translated and packaged into a language that employers understand, making Steve's background possible to compare against other candidates. This translation process is key to helping employers understand and validate Steve's learning experience and trust that he knows how to apply his newfound knowledge and skills. It is built on a common language for competencies that is used by education providers, employers, and assessments, and real-time data sharing between stakeholders in the learning ecosystem. This enables more precise signaling between job seekers and employers, and hiring based on skills, not just credentials. And fifth, open doors. For Steve, this ultimately means hire me. Equipped with a new set of skills, Steve applies for new roles or re-enters the workforce in new capacity and moves up the management chain. His future employer doesn't see risk in hiring Steve because there's a clear alignment in his knowledge and his skills with the talent needs of the company. With a new apprenticeship and try before you buy employment models, plus a common language for skills and job requirements, an employer is able to hire Steve with a higher level of confidence. At the same time, Steve feels confident in his path because he chose it with an understanding of the job requirements, the salary, and the potential for advancement. Steve also understands that a few years from now he may engage in another transaction just like this, and that he can leverage the resources across the learning ecosystem to stay ahead and remain relevant in the workforce of the future. That's the vision of the learning ecosystem of the future, a new frontier of seamless pathways, integrated solutions, and supporting systems and incentives to succeed in the future of work, marked by transparency, efficiency, integration, data-informed decision-making, built on learner-centered, tech-enabled, and integrated solutions, and fortified by multiple players collaborating, adapting, and regenerating to meet the future of work for the future of workers. So how do we get there? In order to prepare Steve to thrive in his transition, we need all of these disparate organizations to pull together to form an interconnected web of policy, funding, technology, and education solutions. In the words of the late Reverend Martin Luther King, there is a fierce urgency of now. If we invest today in the infrastructure of the learning ecosystem of the future, we will ensure that generations of learners will be equipped with the relevant skills and competencies to thrive in the jobs of tomorrow. The future of work is now. Let's build the learning ecosystem of the future together. And the future of work is us. Let's get started.